Hey guys, tonight we're going to do a little kind of a pre-review, I guess you could say, of an item that I just recently purchased. And when I say recently, I mean just over 2 weeks ago. I bought it 2 weeks ago, yesterday, which would have been Saturday, or 2 days ago, which would have been Saturday now, I guess. Um, anyway, it is for the Smith & Wesson Sigma Series SW9VE 9mm pistol. The reason I want to do this video is because this pistol happened to be my very first handgun purchase. I never owned a handgun before this. Was looking to get into purchasing my first pistol and did a lot of research. And in doing the research, one of the things that I found was that there was very little information, not very little, but I was looking for videos like this to help me understand certain things and certain thought processes that you will go through when purchasing your first handgun. I didn't find too many videos like this on YouTube or anywhere else from an average person. Most of the videos I saw were from professional gun owners, professional shooters, people who own their own gun shops, things of that nature. But no real average Joe, just kind of giving his opinion or his thoughts on making a first handgun purchase. Now, when you start thinking about making your first handgun purchase, there are several questions that are going to run through your head. Obviously, the first and foremost question that's going to run through your head is, what kind of pistol do I want to buy? There's hundreds of different models that you can choose from as far as handguns go. I mean, you can go from automatic, semi-automatic revolver or pistols to revolvers. There's just so many brands and models out there that it can be very confusing to a first-time buyer. So, obviously that's going to be the first thing that goes through your head. What do I want? And what I want to do with this video is just kind of walk you through, like I said, kind of some of the thought processes that I went through when making my first handgun purchase. Not that my opinions mean anything. Like I said, I've never owned a handgun before now, and I've never, given much thought to it. So, like I said, my opinions may not mean that much to anybody, but like I said, I want to make sure that I put my opinion out there for anybody who might be interested, just to hear what an average guy might think about when purchasing his first handgun. So, before we get going too far, let me introduce you to the gun that I did purchase. It is the Smith & Wesson SW9VE 9mm. First thing we'll do, of course, as a safety-conscious person. Now, I do have a loaded magazine. For home protection, I do leave my gun loaded when it is in the house. But as you can see, I've taken the magazine out. I did not have one chambered, so it is completely clear. Safe to handle. Magazine is out, so we will leave the magazine out for the duration of this video. So the gun is now safe to handle, but that is the gun I went with. Again, the Smith & Wesson. If I can get this to show up, Smith & Wesson, and right there on the back, you can see SW9VE. It is a pretty nice gun, and we'll go over it here in a little while. But anyway, so like I was saying, one of the first questions, you're going to ask yourself when purchasing your first handgun is, what kind of handgun do I want? And to answer that question, you have to ask another question first. And I've found through doing my research and making my first purchase that the next question the question that you're going to ask to answer your first question is, well, what are you looking to do with this handgun? Are you looking to strictly have it for 100% home protection, in which you do not plan to pick it up unless you absolutely have to defend yourself in your home? Are you looking to carry this weapon on you, concealed out in public? Or are you looking to take this just to the range, just to fire it as a hobby? Or are you looking to do this as all three? those are some questions you have to ask yourself. And if you can answer each one of those questions honestly, it gives you it takes a wide range of weapons that you could purchase and narrows it down dramatically by answering those few simple questions. Uh, for the purposes of this video, we're going to stick specifically to my intentions for buying a handgun, and we won't go off topic outside of that. Excuse me, I'm making this video very late at night, so I'm a little tired. But anyway, the purposes that I purchased my first handgun for were strictly for home protection and target shooting. The reason I wanted to do some target shooting was because I am of the belief that if you decide to purchase a handgun for home protection or personal protection, if you decide to carry it with you, I am of the firm belief that you should know not only how to use it, but be comfortable in using it. And if you don't go to the range on a fairly regular basis, then purchasing a handgun to have on you or in your house for protection does you no good unless you are comfortable using it. So that is one of the reasons I wanted to get a gun that is fairly good to take to the range, because I intend to go out and shoot this gun. Not on a regular basis like every week, every other week, but at least once a month, hopefully once every other month, just to keep fresh with it, just to keep comfortable with it. That way, if the time ever arises where I do need to use this gun, I'm comfortable doing it. I'm comfortable handling it. I'm comfortable loading it, unloading it, handling it, pulling the trigger. I'm comfortable with it in my hand. So that was the thought process I went through in deciding the type of gun I was going to get. And like I said, for the purpose of this video, that's the scenario that we're going to be discussing. I'm not going to go into concealed carry. I don't intend to carry this weapon right now. I don't have a concealed carry permit. I don't intend to get one because I don't feel I need one right now. If that ever changes, I might make a different purchase, or when we get into talking about this gun, I will say that of the 9mm, it is one that I feel could be concealed carry. And we'll get into that when we talk about the gun here in a minute. But like I said, we're not going to get into talking about concealed carry very much because I don't intend to use it for concealed carry. We're strictly going to talk about having the gun for home protection, personal protection, and target shooting. That is the purposes that I purchased this gun for. So, in keeping with that, when I decided to make my first purchase, and I decided what I wanted to use it for, it narrowed down my choices, and I started going around to local gun shops, research on the internet, to try and figure out what brand, what model. And through my research, I found that if you want something to take to the range on a fairly regular basis, you're going to want to stick to something like a 9mm. Reason being is 9mm is fairly inexpensive to shoot. And by fairly inexpensive, I mean purchasing rounds of ammunition to go out and practice with is not going to cost you an arm and a leg. The rounds that you purchase for home protection, and I'll talk about those in a minute as well. In fact, I have to go get the other round, so hang on one second. Okay, we're back. But the rounds for personal protection and the rounds that you're going to practice with are fairly inexpensive. So that's why I kind of settled on purchasing a 9mm. I kind of narrowed it down to I was going to purchase a 9mm. And when you decide that you're going to settle on a 9mm, your options get even narrower. So you're making your decision a lot easier once you go through these thought processes. So I decided on a 9mm, and then it was just a matter of finding the brand and the feel that I wanted. So I started going to local gun shops, started going to the internet, different websites to try and look up different types of 9mm, what was out there, price ranges. That's another big thing that we're going to talk about is pricing. And when it came time to actually make the purchase, um, the purchase was made solely on a few simple factors. When I started going to the gun shops, obviously the first thing you're going to do is look through their gun cabinets and see what they have. I had, said I'm looking for a 9mm. I'm not completely against buying anything else, but as a beginner, I don't want anything like a 1911. I'm not looking for a 40 caliber. I don't really need anything huge. I don't want anything compact. I just need a nice sized 9mm for target practice and home protection. And most of the gun shop owners were very helpful. I'm going to give a plug to the gun shop that I actually bought the gun from here in a few minutes. But the next thing to do is just start handling the guns. Put them in your hand and see what they feel like. A lot of videos will tell you to go out and shoot the gun, and that is big and important. I will let you know, as of the time that this video is being made, I have not fired this weapon yet. Like I said, I've only had it for 2 weeks and I haven't got a chance to go out to the range yet, but I felt very comfortable purchasing this gun for several reasons that I'm going into. Do I recommend buying a gun without firing it? I believe you certainly can. If you've done your research into the brand and you've done your research into the gun that you plan on purchasing, I believe it is a safe deal or safe bet to purchase a gun without firing it. However, I do not think it is a good idea to purchase a gun unless you handle several different models. And the reason I believe this is because every model, even though it's a 9mm, has a different feel. And you have to buy one that is going to feel comfortable in your hand. So the first thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to this gun is the feel. When I got to the gun shop, and first and foremost, the gun shop that I purchased from is called Burke's. Burke's Gun Shop. It is in Laceyville, PA. It's a small little town just south of Wyalusing, PA, which is just south of Towanda, PA, which is just south of Sarah, PA, which is just south of Elmira and Binghamton, New York. So to give people out there kind of an idea of where Towanda and where Laceyville and Wyalusing are, we're just in the northeast region of Pennsylvania. About Laceyville, I would say, would be about an hour and 10 minutes north of Scranton. So if anybody else out there watches The Office, where Scranton is where it's set. Obviously, it's not filmed in Scranton, but it's set in Scranton, PA. That's where Laceyville is. It's just a little bit north of Scranton, PA. But Burke's Gun Shop, located in Laceyville, PA, I highly recommend them. And I will definitely put a link to their site and some of their information in the information of this video, because they truly deserve the plug. They were phenomenal when it came to purchasing this weapon. So anyway, when I went to Burke's, they have a couple cabinets full of handguns. I told the lady what I was looking for, and she pulled out several items. And it came to this gun. She took this gun out of the case, she went just like this, locked it, handed it to me. She said, go ahead and handle it, play around with it, close it, open it, pull the slide, do whatever you want with it. Just get a feel for it. The moment she put this gun in my hand, this just felt good. Now, I'll let you know I haven't held too many guns before. As far as handguns, I fired a Glock several years ago. So that was basically all I had to go on. But she put this in my hand, and immediately I was like, that feels really comfortable. And I mean, we'll go into the model here in a second and some of the features, but it felt really good in the hand. And I'm like, wow, this feels really nice. I closed it up and I pointed it and aimed over it and just got the sights, and it felt great in the hand. And I was like, okay, let's move on to the next one. So I put this one down. She handed me another Smith & Wesson that was a 40 caliber. She handed me, what were some of the other ones she sent me? She set me up with a Ruger. She set me up with she handed me a couple 1911s, and of course I wasn't in the market for a 1911, but just to get a feel for it, she handed them to me. And I went to another gun shop and held a couple Glocks and whatnot, but when I was at Burke's, every gun that I held, I kept coming back to this one, picking this one up, and playing with this one. I just kept holding this one and monkeying with it and getting a good feel for it. And she said, "You really like that, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, it's very comfortable." And she said, "Well, why don't we do this? Take this gun, take it up to the counter, set it on the counter. We'll have our person up there watch over it, and any other gun you might be interested in, take it up, and then you can compare them." So I set this one up on the counter. Her husband, who also worked at the gun shop, it's a little family-owned place, said, "All right, I'll hold it here for you." And I went and got a couple other models, and I went back, and I kept feeling this gun. And then I would pick up another gun, and I'd come right back to this gun, and this one just felt right. So the next day, I went off, and like I said, handled a couple Glocks, a couple other guns. Nothing fit in my hand quite as well as this. Now, there are other 9mm out there that are fairly inexpensive that you could easily purchase, and so on and so forth. But this is the one that just felt right in my hand. Now, to each his own. I'm not saying that this one's going to fit everybody's hand, but when it came to fitting in my hand, now, if you look at my hand, I don't have overly large fingers. They're a little bit stubby towards the palm, and I do have a little bit of a meatier palm. This gun just fits perfectly in my hand. It just fits perfectly. Some of the guns I picked up had a very similar feel to it. The 40 caliber Smith & Wesson that I handled obviously looked identical to this as far as look goes, and the grip was very similar as well. The only difference was it was a little bit narrower in the grip. Same depth front to back, but the width was just a little bit narrower. This one is like I said, just perfect for my hand. It just feels right in my hand. Some of the other guns that I was holding, even though they weren't compact, my pinky was hanging off the bottom. This one, as you can see, it does not. Everything fits perfectly, especially if, for those of you who like to be safety conscious, I'm just going to stick a magazine. The magazine is loaded, but I'm sticking a magazine in just to show you the way it fits. It just feels right in my, my pinky's not hanging off the bottom. We'll take that back out. Of course, it is clear. But it just felt right. So I kept coming back to this, and she says, the lady that was working there that night said, "If you end up buying your first gun from us, I can almost guarantee it's going to be this gun." And I said, "Of the guns you have here, yes, this is going to be the one that I purchased from you." But, I hadn't gone to any other gun shops at the time, so I said, "Let me go a couple other places, and I'll let you know." Very next day, went out to a couple places, handled a couple guns, and I was like, you know what? Everything I'm handling, it's going to keep coming back to this. So without wasting any other time, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go back and get this one. I went back the very next day and purchased this gun. And I'm very happy with it so far. Like I said, I haven't shot it yet, but the research I've done, I guess some of the early models of the Sigma series had a little issue, malfunctioning, but from what I've read and what I've researched, Smith & Wesson has done a fantastic job redoing the model and have made it very, very high quality weapon. So far, like I said, I can't wait to get out and fire it. It's a great gun. We'll talk a little bit about the gun now itself. Now, there are tons of other videos on YouTube already about the Sigma series, the SW9VE. But the model itself is very simple. That's another reason I went with this gun. It's very simple. For somebody who's never owned a handgun before, you want a gun that's not going to complicate things. It's not going to turn you off to owning a gun and using a gun. And this one will not. It's so simple to use. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unload completely unloaded a magazine, so it is safe to put it into the gun. So I can play around with the gun a little bit and show you how it works. Alright. First and foremost, as far as a gun goes, it's super simple to use. When it comes to actually firing the gun, when the magazine is loaded, you cock it once and you're ready to fire. You can't get any easier than that. For somebody who's never owned a gun before, pulling the slide back and pulling the trigger, it doesn't get any easier than that. When it comes to disassembling the gun, again, you can't get any easier than this. To disassemble the gun, you make sure the magazine is out, make sure the trigger has been pulled. All you're going to do is the hand that you hold it with, you're going to take your hands up to the top of the slide, pull back just like 1/4 of an inch. That's about it. And then you're going to notice that along the side of the gun here, there's a little lever right here, and again, right, if I can get the camera to focus on it, here. And what you're going to do is when you pull that back just 1/4 of an inch, you're going to pull down on those levers, let go of the slide, and it's going to come right off. You don't get any easier than that. The inside of the slide, and one of the things I'm going to say first and foremost is that when it comes to this gun, it is almost identical to a Glock. In fact, it's so identical to a Glock that when it first came out, there was some lawsuits over the design. Obviously, they were settled because Smith & Wesson has been allowed to sell this gun. When you get to the inside of the slide, simple. To clean it, pop out your spring. Take your barrel, slide it forward, and it comes right out. That's it. You clean this stuff up, put a little lubrication on it, slide the barrel back in. The one end of the spring, as you can see, has a little notch on it, a little stub. The stub goes right into this hole right here, and you lock her in place. Now, for somebody who has never owned, cleaned, fired a handgun, you can't get any simpler than this. Putting it back on the slide, or on the frame, it's a polymer frame, by the way, but putting it back on the frame, which is, again, almost identical to a Glock, putting it on is even easier than taking it off. You slide it back onto the rails, that's it. You're done. You don't have any little fancy levers to readjust. You put it on, pull it back, and that's it. So it's super simple to use. And when I say it fit in my hand perfectly, what I mean is it fit in my hand perfectly. And what I mean by perfectly is everything is accessible without adjusting your hand. I can reach, as you can see along the side of the gun, right here is the mag release. Right here is your slide lock, or no, excuse me, this is your slide lock back here. Here's your levers for releasing the slide. But again, let's say I have a magazine in, I'm done shooting, boom, 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 boom. The gun kicks back like this. I'm ready to load another magazine. Without even adjusting my hand, I can release the mag, insert another mag, and release the slide lock without even moving my hand once. This is the position that I use for firing the weapon, and I can access everything without adjusting my hands. Some of the other guns that I handled, the Ruger, some of the other ones, the grips were such that in order to release the mag, I had to kind of rotate my hand like in a little bit to be able to release it. The Ruger that I looked at had what they call the decocker, that you can release the firing pin without firing the weapon. And that was kind of in a weird place back here that I had to adjust my hand and do that with. Some of them had the safety back here that you had to, and this just was so easy. I could keep my hand safely here and do everything that I needed to do without even adjusting my hand. It was just super simple. Everything's accessible. I mentioned that some of the guns I had safeties on. This has no actual, what I would call a physical safety. The only safety it does have is if you look at the trigger, if I can get this to line up the right way, up in here, you're going to see a little tiny notch. And when you pull the bottom portion of the trigger, that little notch disappears up into the upper portion of the trigger. That is the only safety that you have. That little notch, if I can get it to, you see it right there, you can see it. That little notch has to disappear before you can actually pull the trigger. If that notch is showing and you pull this part of the trigger up here, it locks it. You can't pull the trigger unless you actually compress that little notch first. That is the only safety that is on this weapon. It's the only one you really need, though, because the biggest part of safety, as a lot of the research videos that I looked at, a lot of the videos I looked at as far as research stated the same thing. The biggest safety on any firearm is right there. It's the biggest safety, because without this doesn't do anything. Unless you pull the trigger, the gun will not go off. Okay? So that makes sense that that's the only safety then right here, because without you doing this, the gun will not go off. So again, magazine is empty, gun is unloaded, we're safe to handle. So as far as physical characteristics of the gun, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm extremely happy with this gun. Now let's talk about pricing a little bit, because to some people, price is the biggest factor. This gun right here, in the box, from a manufacturer, this is not used, this was not resold to the manufacturer, this was brand new. I purchased it for $369. Now, for $369, I got the gun, 2 10-round magazines. The reason they're 10-round magazines instead of the 15 or 16 rounds that you'll see in other videos is because I guess PA has a law that restricts it to 10 rounds per magazine. But it comes with 2. It comes with a bunch of literature. It comes with its nice little manual. The great thing about the manual is with inside, it's got pictures, where to lubricate the gun, when you clean it, how to clean it, where to lube it. For somebody who's never owned a gun before, this is going to be a very helpful brochure. And it also comes with a gun lock that, of course, you stick through the barrel, lock it, and so on and so forth. All that for $369 out the door. When I made my purchase, I also purchased 2 boxes of ammunition and a holster. I'm not going to talk about the holster at all today. If you want to know about it, just ask. I'll show it to you. The holster does have an extra pouch for the second clip, or the second magazine. As far as ammunition goes, I bought 2 different kinds of ammunition. The first kind we're going to talk about is called Blazer ammunition. I'm sure most of the gun owners out there have heard of this. It's fairly inexpensive. I was able to buy 50 rounds of this ammunition for $19.95. 50 rounds. Right there is what it looks like. It's, I believe, 147 grain. Yeah, 147 grain ammunition. This is what the gun shop owner called plinking rounds, or what she referred to them as practice rounds. Fairly inexpensive to shoot, yet a very close, accurate representation of a little bit more powerful ammunition. The more powerful ammunition is the other box of ammunition that I purchased, and she recommended the Winchester Supreme Elite, what they call personal protection, PDX-1, 147 grain rounds. This is what I use. I always have a magazine loaded of this, and this is what sits in my gun when it's at home. As you can see, it's fairly similar. Of course, both are 9mm rounds, but this, of course, has the hollow tip. So, you know, that's the round. Like I said, this is the round that sits in the magazine, in the gun, not cocked. I don't ever have the gun cocked at home. But this is the round that sits in the gun when it's at home for personal protection. Obviously, this one has a lot more stopping power than the plinking rounds. Now, she did recommend that when I go out and practice, that I, practice mostly with the inexpensive rounds, but also maybe shoot 5 to 10 rounds of this every time I'm out, just to keep this fresh in my mind as to how this shoots. So normally when I go shooting, I'll shoot two or three magazines of the plinking rounds, and maybe one magazine of the expensive stuff. The expensive rounds were $29.95 for 20 of them. So 20 rounds for $25.59 for 20 rounds, and $19.95 for 50 rounds of the blazer ammunition. And I hope my camera is still recording, because my screensaver just came on and I have to enter my password to get back into my computer, so bear with me one moment. Am I still recording? Yes, I'm still recording. Okay. So, anyway, those were two types of ammunition I purchased. 2 boxes of ammunition, the gun, and the holster, $460 when all was said and done. For a gun, $369 for a nice 9mm gun. That's not bad at all. I looked at some of the Glock 9mm, and they were pushing $550 to $600. I was not really looking to spend that much on my first gun. Now, I fully intend to get a Glock at some point. I think they're a very nice gun, and once I get into shooting a little bit more and purchasing a secondhand gun, Glock will probably be my secondhand gun. But that's in the future. That's not now. I'm not looking to purchase a Glock right now. Right now, I'm just looking to go out and shoot this gun for the first time. But that's basically it. I mean, I don't really have anything else to talk about. If you guys have any questions as far as the thought processes that I went through, some of the questions that I asked the gun shop owner, things I had to go through when I decided to make the purchase as far as paperwork, background checks, anything like that. If you guys have any questions about that, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Just throw the questions in your comments, in the comments section. And if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this from me, let me know. I do intend to do another review of this once I actually have gone out and fired it. I'm going to try and take a video of the actual test firing with this. But overall, I'm extremely happy with this. For the money I spent and what I was looking for, I think this is a great first handgun for anybody. It's a great brand, great high-quality brand that has a great reputation, Smith & Wesson. And when they made the improvements to this, I can honestly say that I think that this is a great first gun for anybody who's making their first handgun purchase. So again, any questions, throw them in the comments. Like the video. If you want more of videos like this from me, let me know. But other than that, I thank you guys for watching. And again, any questions, let me know, and I'll answer as many as I can. So this is Brandon signing off for the Smith & Wesson SW9VE Sigma Series 9mm pistol. Be safe in purchasing your first handguns. Enjoy it. It's a great experience. And again, Burke's Gun Shop, Laceyville, PA. I thank them greatly. It was a great experience. They will be getting my gun business from here on out. So thank you guys for watching. Any questions, let me know. And tune in for my next video.